Welcome everybody to another exciting episode of HomeKit Insider. You've got me, as always, Andrew O'Hara, here with my pal, Wes Hilliard, or as some people call him, Wes Hilliard. How you doing, buddy?
Well, I think that's the same name twice. I'm doing fine today. Excited for big CES week next week, or as we're recording today. So it really depends on, as we're listening today. Depends on when you tune in, but CES is a big week starting Sunday night all the way through, Wednesday? Thursday?
Yeah, something like Friday. If you're press, it goes like the entire week, because things start like the Sunday before, and then it goes through, I'm pretty sure, like Friday. So this is airing on Monday, which is kind of like the second day of CES for media. And by the time you're listening to this, I could already have died from CES. So there you go.
Well, if you are listening on day one, make sure you're tuning into Apple Insider, because we're going to be running through all the news, all the big stuff, HomeKit, Qi2 charging, all of that stuff. So definitely stay tuned for more information on all the things.
Literally just all of them. Like, follow the socials, the website. We're this year, Wes, we're going to do a little different. We're going to be doing a ton of short form and see how that performs for us. So I'm going to be finding a bunch of gear, doing a bunch of short form videos. There'll be larger roundup videos. So whatever flavor of content you guys want. You want to sit there for a 20-minute video of all the smart home stuff? Cool, do it. You want a bunch of short form stuff that's going to come in throughout the day as I find things? Got that for you too. So we'll have a lot of things on whatever platform you prefer.
We'll be posting photos from the show floor directly from Andrew, as the internet allows, on our various social platforms as well. So make sure you follow us there.
Yeah, we do have some CES news, because there's like the first day, again, happened like last night from when this episode is dropping. So we have a couple things that we can slip in here, but we're just going to have like a dedicated CES roundup episode next week. So stay tuned for that and like all the nitty gritty. But a couple things to get into here today. We also have several listener questions that we are getting back to. We've had several in the past week, so we're going to tackle those. But the first thing to get excited about here in the smart home world, there's an update to Thread, Wes. Could there be anything more exciting to start the show with?
Well, as long as it works, I'm happy. So
I think these are big deals, and your average person is probably not going to care too much, but I swear these are big things. So basically, new version of Thread is being announced. So the working members of the Thread group have had access to this for a while. They're working at bringing these to market in their actual products. So this will be standardized soon. So there's no actual products that are using these as of like today, this second, but they will very soon. But there's like a few notable things here. So the first thing that I'm pretty jazzed about, I think that's the thing that people still say, is there's now a standardized way to share credentials between Thread networks. And what that means for especially people who are listening or watching this show is, if you ever try to set up like a second smart home network in like a different ecosystem, right? Whether it's through Matter or elsewhere, but you have like, Samsung Hub, or you have like one of the Amazon hubs, as well as your HomeKit hubs. When they start up, they're going to be creating a separate Thread network. Now there's not like issues with this necessarily, but they can't take advantage of your existing Thread network in your home. It's like spinning up just a whole second Wi-Fi network for half your stuff, and they're not communicating anyway, so what's the big deal? Well, if we have things that are kind of far away from each other and different networks, they can't talk. But with this update, they will be able to share the credentials and be able to essentially expand your existing Thread network. So if you are someone who has multiple ecosystems or multiple Thread border routers that aren't all HomePods or aren't all part of HomeKit, there's now a standardized way to share credentials to expand that network across your home, and I'm pretty excited about that one. I do have my Samsung SmartThings hub. I do have a Nest one around here as well, and there's no reason they shouldn't be basically expanding the existing network that I have. So I see this as only a good thing, even if it's not everyone who has that problem.
right. I mean, you got to imagine there's a lot of people who might have Hue lights, which are pretty much universal, alongside some Samsung things like a refrigerator. And maybe you want to coordinate those devices, but also use HomeKit. I mean, this is the kind of technology that will allow that. So being able to automate across platforms seamlessly within a single app. This is what we were talking about last episode, where do we really want to operate outside the HomeKit app or the Apple Home app? And this is one of those situations where it makes sense to, because you'll be able to basically set up whatever home interactions you want through Apple Home and through the Samsung or whatever home Alexa skills or whatever you want to do, and all of it just be aware of each channel without setting up completely separate networks for each one, basically creating a confusing mess on the internet side of things. So I'm excited for this. I think it just means more interoperability, more chances for communication between devices, and more chances for connections to fix themselves when things go wrong. So I think this will be nice.
I think that's a big one too, is, you know, you can have two different ecosystems. You don't even have to matter. Like, they can completely not communicate. And just because we have this doesn't mean I'd be able to use, you know, my Samsung SmartThings hub to control a HomeKit device, but they're at least able to share the same airwaves and the same network. And like you said, Wes, like if a product goes down, and you had two separate networks set up, when that goes down, it can cause issues. There may not be a way to reroute, but with this, they'd be able to use, you know, that expanded network, the one shared by the other ecosystem, and just travel along its, you know, airwaves and get to where it needs to go. On top of that, they've also said there's a way now to actually send thread packets through things like Ethernet, which is really cool, which again goes to helping mitigate issues if devices would ever go offline.
It always comes back to wires.
It does. It always does. The next big new update here for Thread is trying to explain this in a way that doesn't sound confusing, and I'm going off of my briefing here without all of the notes, but there's basically going to be direct internet access for Thread devices. So your Thread device will be able to channel through your border router and communicate to the internet. And my immediate thought was like security and privacy, and we'll get to that. But why would you care about this? The biggest thing of this being able to do is they're able to pull information that's relevant. So if you had a product, you could be able to go up and get like stock ticker points and pull those down to do something. You could go up and get weather data and pull that down, a sports score, whatever information that the manufacturer wants that device to be able to grab and pull back down, it's able to do that. And before anyone starts being like, that sounds scary, I don't want my device to connect to the internet, there's the first question that I asked, and basically for both the Google and the Apple ecosystems, there's going to be toggles within the respective smart home apps that will allow you to limit that internet access. So similar to how it's done with like a HomeKit router, right? You have that toggle on the router, like, do I want my devices to have communication within the home, outside the home, the whole internet, whatever it is. Similar toggles will happen for Thread devices so that if you want complete privacy, you don't want them sending diagnostic information or checking with the cloud, toggle it off. Products will work as normal. But if you want added functionality, you can leave that turned on.
I can imagine this is also another way for devices to communicate and get software updates, because right now for certain things like my Nano Leaf lights, I have to specifically go to the app, tell it to get an update, and this whole mess, versus I believe there's some systems that'll just automatically update on their own without user prompts, or even through the Apple Home app. So I think this just opens up more possibilities for these devices to connect to the internet, seek out updates themselves, compare version numbers without having to have that intermediary doing the check for them. Right, I have a few switches from Maris that, again, just without the app installed, they work okay, but then they'll disappear, and I'll need to reinstall the app, do some checking, and usually there's a firmware update available, and it's just funny to me that you can only do updates through apps, so hopefully this is one of those weird little upgrades that can help solve a problem like that, because, again, I don't need, or at least I don't want every single app in the home ecosystem on my phone at all times. It seems a little redundant.
Yeah, Apple does make it available for manufacturers to install updates through the Home app, and yet it still seems very few actually take advantage of this. Even ones that are big HomeKit players like Eve still have you go to the Eve app before you can install an update. So it is what it is, but yeah, I hope that this would maybe enable more stuff like that. I mean, if they're able to check for that update, maybe you can just hopefully be able to just toggle that update through the Home app, keep things simple without third-party stuff. The last couple things on Thread here, basically more just quality of life benefits for manufacturers, creators, and high-end like power users. So there's going to be a new way to be able to onboard a bunch of devices at once. So if you're like an installer, you're doing a whole building of things, and maybe they put in a bunch of plugs, and instead of going around and scanning QR codes 100 times on like an apartment building or whatever, there will be an easier way to onboard those all at once. There's new troubleshooting stuff that'll make it easier to track things down where problems are going on the network and with your device communicating, and there'll be an easier way to actually kind of see your Thread network. Right now, like, you don't really see what your Thread network is doing, where things are connecting. They're going to make this more visible. So we might see more things like the Eve app that has done all the extra engineering to surface what your Thread network looks like. I think we're going to see more things like that pop up in other apps that'll make it easier for like power users to diagnose. They also hope that this is going to help with the actual deployment of Thread devices. If it's easier to troubleshoot, track down issues and all of that, plus the ability to actually communicate across Thread networks, we overall should see an uptick in the usage of Thread. At least that's what I'm hoping. These all seem like very good benefits, and I'm excited to see what new Thread stuff comes out this week.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, again, the more Thread network radios, the better, I suppose. It increases the density and improves the communication, and it can only get better from here. I mean, the amount of devices I have in my home with Thread is very minimal, and that's pretty much paired to Matter. So Matter and Thread almost go hand in hand on a lot of these products these days, even though they are separate things. It just seems to be everyone's submitting Matter/Thread capable devices. So it'll be nice to be able to do better troubleshooting, have more dedicated apps to these kinds of systems. And I just keep going back to like new home installations. Maybe you want to install like 40 different switches at the same time. I would love a way for these things to communicate either with each other or with the network in a way that says, oh, we're all a part of the same unit. Let's just add it all at once. Maybe sell a pack of 50 bulbs with one QR code attached. I don't know what kind of limitations are there, but hopefully as these network protocols mature, we start seeing more ways for advanced users to have more features, more functionality.
Absolutely. Now, Wes, we're pretty early on in the episode. Do you know what's also early on in the day?
Breakfast.
Breakfast. That is right. Which is so convenient. That is an award-worthy transition right there. I'll say so myself. But yeah, they say breakfast is important, and HelloFresh agrees, which is why they are now giving away free breakfast for life. It's freaking crazy. Free breakfast for life. I've used HelloFresh for so long. It's been one of my favorite things to do. It's so easy to do, and one of my biggest sticking points is like, well, there's two things. One, I end up with the same recipes all the time. I'm like using the same ones time and time again because they're the ones we know. Oh, we're going to do some pasta with chicken and broccoli and olive oil and garlic. Cool. We're going to go ahead and do a stir fry. They're the same things. They're like your comfort things that you just go back to. But with HelloFresh, you get to think outside the box. You have all these new recipes. There's so many recipes to choose from each and every week that you can mix things up, try stuff new. And the second thing is you can save money by trying new ingredients because like I don't need a whole tub of creme fraiche and it's going to cost me like $6. No, I need like 2 tablespoons of it, and that's what you get when you get a HelloFresh box. So you can try this amazing new pasta recipe, add in your 2 tablespoons of creme fraiche and these other really nice ingredients that you don't need to buy a whole lot of. I don't need an entire pack of celery or a giant whole thing of spring onions. I just need one of them. And I love that you don't have all this excess waste with HelloFresh. Plus, they're just really easy to make. There's fast ones, there are longer ones. You have complete control over the proteins that you add. There's so many benefits to going with HelloFresh, and there's literally just never been a better time to do it. So go to HelloFresh.com/HomeKit3 and use HomeKit3 for free breakfast for life. 1 breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/HomeKit3 with code HomeKit free. So thank you again, HelloFresh, for sponsoring America's number one meal kit. Have you tried them before?
Oh yeah, no. HelloFresh is definitely something that's been around before. Either we've ordered it ourselves, or I've had friends get a few deliveries from them, and it's always phenomenal. I mean, the recipe cards, just tuck those away for a rainy day. So simple, so straightforward.
Well, I always save them, and I go back to them later.
Yeah, you always get exactly what you need in the box. Like it really is just really well thought out, like meal delivery system. So can't recommend it enough.
Well, we can also maybe recommend. I don't know if we can recommend this or not. That was a bad transition. Scratch it. But we got more CES news that we're jumping back into, including Samsung's new smart robot vacuum cleaner, which can steam clean your floors, Wes. It can steam.
It's only a matter of time.
Steam clean it. I mean, it's like every year, if you paid attention to the smart robot vacuum market, every year there's like one new thing added, right? So the first year we got like the auto emptying docking stations, right? That would automatically take out the stuff. Then the next time we got ones that would also add water or remove water from the mop.
Right.
So we had that one next. Then the next year after that, we had heated air that would dry the mops to prevent bacteria buildup.
Or they could just remove the mops.
Yeah. And now this year we've got Samsung that's going to go ahead and steam clean your floors. So it does all the other stuff, right? It does the auto emptying, it has the water and all of those things. But what it has here is basically the ability to like heat up hot water to clean the mops. And if it finds a dirty spot on your floor, using AI, of course, it's going to go back to the clean station, heat up the mop pads with steam, and then go back to that mess and then clean it up with up to 170 RPMs. So steam and rapidly spinning brushes to clean up like that honey that you spilled on the kitchen floor.
Of course.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, they can pretty much do everything except walk your dog at this point, so maybe that'll be next year. No, steam cleaning sounds like a interesting idea for sure. Like, it's for hardwood or tile, right? So it's not like gonna deep clean your carpets for you or anything. But maybe that's another innovation they can add. But yeah, it's really fun seeing what they can do to innovate here, because we've already gotten to the point where the LiDAR detection systems and object recognition and everything have gotten to the point where they've kind of peaked. I mean, they can always improve, but how much more can you really map a house? So adding new cleaning features is the obvious next step, and I think the only things that I would say is they don't save you from cleaning everything. We have a couple of robots in our house, but they definitely find a lot of, like, it's always so surprising how much like stuff they can pick up. You find in the vacuum bag, or you see how dirty the mop water is. You're like, man, I just cleaned yesterday. Why did it? Like, how is it this crazy? But now we need drones flying around and dusting our shelves for us. I wonder if Samsung can do that for us.
There we go. That'd be perfect. And I think this is one of the. I know I'll bash AI probably 50 times through we get CES, because people just put it on things. And kind of like
buzzword.
Claim AI. Yeah, exactly. But I actually feel like it has been useful in the robot vacuum space, because what they specifically do, and I remember like Roborock's pitch about this like 2 years ago when they were doing it, but they use that AI for object recognition, like you said, and it'll be able to identify like things like a toy. I can get close to that. This is a cable. I need to steer clear of that. This is a pile of dog leavings. I need to stay really far away from that. Like, it can detect the exact type of object, not that there's an object, but the type of object, and that can gauge how close it will get to it, which I think is really smart. So I'm not saying that the Samsung one does that part, but they're using AI to detect like the types of floor as well as the object recognition stuff, and I feel like that's one of the useful cases we've had here before it became as big of a buzzword as it is now.
Just more and more advanced machine learning. I mean, that's the real detail here. It's just adding more layers of thought processes on, if I encounter this, what do I do? And it's just getting better at it. It's getting faster. A lot of these things we forget are still computers. They need processing power. They need ways to run these algorithms, and that's getting cheaper to make as well. So it's not just that the algorithms are getting better or the training models or AI or whatever buzzword you want to throw at it. It's also that it's getting cheaper to make advanced processors. Like, you got to think Samsung's Steam vacuum is probably more powerful than some iPhones we've had in the past at this point. It's just getting a little ridiculous out there in the technology world, but that's just how it goes. The march of technology, always moving forward.
We're not gonna get into it because we can't dawdle with all of our other news. But I just want to point out, like we saw this week, that again they're kind of confirming as best they whatever that Apple's digital assistant is getting that generative AI stuff this year, and that's going to be huge. Like,
I believe they're
Siri
calling it a
has been
Skynet
dumb for so long. Yeah, basically.
Terminator did take place in 2024. Keep it in mind.
I cannot wait. Like, that's the one. I had all my devices. I kept trying not to say the S word, and I said it in my phone and everything. Just peaked to life. Anyway, moving on. More smart home stuff out of CES. New smart lock. This is the UltraLoq, and it's not UltraLoq with a CK. It's UltraLoq with a Q, as it is.
Of course.
So the UltraLoq Bolt. Couple things here, because there's, I think, 3 different locks for us to talk about briefly. The first is a matter over thread version. This is the first one to enable matter over thread, at least that I have seen. There might be more this week, but so far this is the first one that I have seen. First one that adds matter over thread. But there's also a Wi-Fi HomeKit version. So the Wi-Fi HomeKit version has the fingerprint sensor on there, as does the matter version. And then there's also a HomeKit version with no fingerprint reader, and instead they've swapped the fingerprint reader for an NFC module to enable Home Key. So there is a Home Key version, a HomeKit version with a fingerprint sensor, and then a matter over thread version with the fingerprint sensor. So 3 new ones out of here from, I can't remember their name already, UTEC, UTEC. What do you make of these?
I mean, I just don't know why I would want a fingerprint sensor and a door lock. I've seen these. These even predate, I think, Apple Home. People have been adding
a car U100 has one.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, they exist. I mean, I had an e-bike that I tested with a fingerprint sensor. I don't know. We're not James Bond over here. I know the iPhone had it and everything. It's just, there's better secure technologies out there. They're pretty quick, but you know what's faster? Tapping my watch to the door. I mean, ever since I got the Level Lock Plus, life changing. Like I mean, it feels like I've had it forever. It's just because it's just so obvious and so simple. I walk out the door, I tap my watch to it without even looking at the door anymore. I just kind of swing my arm up there and keep going, and I can hear the bolt rolling as I walk down the stairs. So Home Key is definitely the way to go. I mean, anyone who has at the Apple Home Smart Home will want to go that route. Maybe if you have more complex homes, or if you have people in your home who need keypads or something, sure, go that route. But I can't recommend it enough. I mean, out of these 3, that's the most compelling to me for sure.
These all also do have keypads on them, so there's like numbers around. And I do find it a little bit interesting, the trend in smart locks recently, other than Level, which is to do how many methods of entry can we do at once. And even Level has several, because you can do a keypad with Level, you can do little pass cards, like a credit card, the NFC thing, you can do Home Key, you can do HomeKit, you can do the Level app, you can do a physical key. You get all these options. These ones are the same way, like they're baking in everything under the sun, including that fingerprint sensor. And for the most part, it's like you need one, so it's like they're going to put everything in there and hope that one of those is the method that you like. And I know you need probably at least 2 or 3. I would say, because like the
2.
key. Mm-hmm. But the reason I say 3 is like key fallback, of course, have a key. Mm-hmm. Then your smart capabilities, like I like Home Key, but I need a 3rd for like whether it's like the little NFC cards or it's a keypad. Because my mother-in-law doesn't have a smartphone or an Apple Watch or anything like that, and I don't like using like just the physical keys. So, because then I don't know, who's even unlocking it and stuff like that. Like, I'd like to be able to give her a code and know that, oh, she's the one who just walked into the house, not someone just bumped our front door open. Like, I like to know who it is versus that physical key. So I like having a keypad or a pass card, something, but I don't necessarily need like the fingerprint reader too at the same time.
I just understand that the more things that we add to these locks, the more opportunities to get past them exist. And of course, there's a window right next to the door, so if a thief really wants to get in your house, they're not going to try to hack your smart lock. That's not what we're really talking about here. I mean, all locks really do is keep the honest people honest. Deadbolts are nice to have, but definitely lock your doors. It's important. It keeps people from just walking into your house. But if someone really wants to get in, it's not the smart lock technology that's going to keep them out. So I guess redundancy isn't that much of an issue versus like on a smartphone where if we had 5 different biometric methods, they could probably find at least a way to bypass one of them very easily. So I understand what these lock companies are doing here and why it's not so much of an issue. It's just, I don't know, maybe for simplicity's sake. That's why I like Level Lock. From the outside looking in, it's just a deadbolt, you know. And these companies, this guy from UTech, it has a deadbolt on the front. It's fairly simple. It has a LED and multiple control points. So, but no, I agree. Having a keypad or some other method is useful. But as long as you can fall back to the internet, because, you know, if someone needs to get in your home and you're not home, you just, you know, tell Siri or tap the button in your smart home app, and there you go. You've unlocked your door, right? So I just, you know, more technology companies need to get into the lock space because I feel like there's so few. I mean, even as we add more, just there's so few compared to light bulbs, right? You have 100 different light bulb brands, 5 lock brands, if you're lucky.
Yeah, and I'm still bummed with Level that they have not added Thread support. Like when I was reading all this stuff about Thread, I'm like, man, I really wish they would add, because right now Level is Bluetooth only. And what I'm curious about here with the UTech ones is they're adding Wi-Fi, which is historically just a big old no-no when it comes to smart locks and HomeKit, because Apple's check-ins are so frequent that it will drain batteries really fast. So I am very surprised that like UTech is like, hey, look, we can do Thread, and came out with the Matter version. And then they're like, but also we have Wi-Fi in these HomeKit ones. It's like, why? Because I want like the home key version here, so I can't do Matter, because if I didn't say it already, there is no Matter smart lock with home key yet. I don't think, or at least no Matter over Thread smart lock with home key yet. And there should be, like that's a thing that's possible. So I don't know why there's no Thread on the home key or the HomeKit ones, and they chose Wi-Fi. I just feel like battery life is going to be terrible, and why other companies like Level haven't introduced Thread on their smart locks yet, even without Matter. So maybe we'll see news this week. Who knows?
Right. CES is a long week. Lots of companies on the show floor. I mean, Apple Insider gets flooded with emails, and even then, that's only a quarter of what's actually there. So, yeah, we'll definitely be hearing more as the week goes on.
Well, in terms of more CES news, we have some stuff from Belkin. Now, I want to justify our position here. As far as HomeKit Insider goes, I consider like MagSafe and Qi2 as part of the smart home ecosystem. I mean, we're charging these devices and running our smart home with them. Not only that, but we have things like standby mode that turn into these smart displays, and I am fairly certain we're going to see an Apple smart display sooner rather than later that's going to kind of blend this. So we won't spend too terribly long on it because there is going to be so much Qi2 stuff coming out from CES, but we do have the new Belkin 3-in-1. So the Boost Charge Pro 3-in-1, they're calling this just the magnetic stand version, which differs from the MagSafe version that had already existed. And it's very similar design. The base is a little more streamlined, like it's a little more curved, looks a little bit nicer. They've gone away from the proprietary barrel connector and now just include a USB-C cable in the box as well as the power adapter. The magnetic charging puck is not white, it's black, or at least on the black model, it's black, so it looks much more sleek. Very nice. I believe a $50 price drop going from like $200 to now $149. Either way, it's a price drop because $149 is definitely a new lower price on this thing. 15 watts of wireless charging, all that stuff. I think this is a very good upgrade from the original one. And then before I get Wes, your opinions on it, we also have 3 new Qi2 battery packs from Belkin, 5,000, 8,000, 10,000 milliamp hours, running you 60, 80, and $100 for these. They have including USB-C input-output, so you can charge 2 devices at once. And there's a kickstand, I believe, at least on the higher-end capacities, to add a little bit more functionality. So what do you think of some of our first Qi2 devices that are going to be coming out?
Well, Belkin's always a good go-to brand. I'm excited to see what they're doing with Qi2, especially considering Belkin's been kind of one of the premier brands Apple works with to put MagSafe directly into the system. So for them to also embrace this more universal standard, which, if I understand correctly, Android devices with Qi2 should be able to work with MagSafe fine because it's just a wireless charging pad with a magnet. But it'll be interesting to see how these companies start to shift and what Apple does to try and incentivize, because as we've discussed before, there's not a lot there in MagSafe that would bring companies over, that would make them want to be a part of it. And customers don't have that much benefit either, other than maybe memory for standby mode. So, yeah, choosing Belkin's Qi2 charger as a Apple home user, as an iPhone user, is certainly going to be a choice, right? So we see this new design, this new streamlined design for Belkin's charging setup. Is that going to come to a new MagSafe version maybe? It just makes you wonder what these product lines are going to look like going forward now that there's a more universal option, and how Apple's going to handle this, because honestly, I don't see the pure MagSafe market moving forward that well, given that there's cheaper, better options in Qi2. But as far as battery packs go, I'll always say I just miss the MagSafe battery pack. Bring it back, Apple. We need a USB-C version. Right.
Dang it! I wish I could say things, but I don't know when the embargoes are. So, I would guess that we're going to see one, not Apple branded, but one official Apple certified MagSafe battery pack before the end of the week.
Fun.
So we'll talk later about that. The last thing from Belkin here that is really cool. This is the Auto Tracking Stand Pro with DockKit. Do you remember Apple announcing DockKit?
Yeah, it's kind of like a reverse, what is that feature called? Center stage. It's center stage, but mechanicalized. It's funny.
Yeah, so this was announced at WWDC 2023, and it was announced, I don't even think I'm not even sure if it had a name fully at WW.
I think it was DockKit.
Now it is out and available with iOS, what are we on now? 17?
17.
I can't even remember what version of software we're on anymore. But yeah, so with that update, DockKit became available. We just need a product to take advantage of it. This thing is very cool. So the first DockKit product that I've seen, so it has a Apple certified 15-watt MagSafe puck at the top, and you just take your iPhone and you tap it on it, and it's going to pair over NFC. It's going to do all the magic for you. Then you're going to place your phone right on there, and you open whatever app that you're going to use, and the app will talk directly to the dock. And I tested this with Belkin using Microsoft Teams. Works really, really well. And then there's also a version, of course, in the stock camera app, and like a bunch of third-party apps will start adopting this. But you'll just tap your phone to pair, place your phone on the thing, and then wherever you move, it's going to follow you around. Follow you around the kitchen, follow you around the boardroom, wherever you are. It's just going to keep you right there in frame. And it'll work with the front-facing camera as well as the rear-facing camera. It's so cool, and it feels so Apple. The fact that there's literally like just tap to pair, that should be all accessories going forward. I just wish that was always a thing. You know, you got a Bluetooth
that was
thing
the dream.
Do, just,
I mean,
know.
how long have we had NFC? I mean, I know since that kind of radio has existed since the 80s, but NFC is a consumer product. We've had it since like 2015. I remember buying like Android phones, a Sony phone with NFC that you could pair headphones with. That was just a huge deal back then. Or my Sony camera, I can automatically set up like automations using the NFC chip using my iPhone. Just NFC, all the things. We've been saying it for almost a decade now, and we're still only just kind of really seeing technologies take advantage of it because it's invisible, and it's hard to teach people to take advantage of invisible things that aren't already ingrained into us, like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. But I mean, I'll always remember Bluetooth being such a funny thing because people hated it when it first arrived. In 2006 era, people walking around with those headsets. So I assume NFC is a similar thing. It's just witchcraft, and we don't want anything to do with it. But no, I think this is a really interesting technology. I mean, as we speak, my iPhone's sitting on a MagSafe stand on a tripod. So, and we're using Center Stage to communicate. So we're getting a little bit of a crop for our HD video for the podcast. But imagine instead of having to crop the image to chase me around, the phone could just literally move and chase me around, and it's stabilization inside of the camera, and the stand itself probably doing a little bit of balancing to give you just a really smooth rotation. And of course, someone like Belkin's going to do this right. There'll probably be cheaper models from other companies later, because DockKit is, it's universal. It doesn't even need to be MagSafe. It's just kind of a connection over Bluetooth protocol, talking to the phone almost like anything else, just taking advantage of that system. So Belkin doing it, it's going to work right. I'm excited to kind of play around with this if I get a hold of one.
Yeah, so the two Qi2 devices, they're shipping here in March, and then the Auto Tracking Stand Pro with DockKit, that is available to order right now. Like right now. Nice. We'll link it down below, but that's available right now through Belkin's website. Speaking of websites where you can buy things, have you heard of Shopify?
Of course, Andrew. It's all over the internet. It is the way to go when you're shopping online, I think.
Everyone is talking about Shopify. That's all I've heard about. Shopify. And that's because it has so many benefits. Whether you were somebody selling things or whether you were somebody buying things, I love it on both fronts. Shopify is able to scale any size business to help you run your online store effectively, from just a simple startup to a massive company like Allbirds, which has some more cool shoes that I want to buy. But it's all done with the power of Shopify. Physical goods, digital goods, all that stuff can be done. Their coupon coding system is very cool. Like, they have so many things on that back end that makes it just an ideal choice for anyone looking to sell things online. What do you like about Shopify from a customer point of view, Wes?
Well, I mean, first of all, you almost never even know that you're in Shopify until maybe you get to the checkout portion, because
exactly
that's kind of the universal standard, but it's kind of a white label program, so you can set up your own store if you have a website or a blog, or if you're trying to sell some crafts that you have. Instead of going through those other like kind of janky websites that take all your money, you can go through something like Shopify, which is a much more custom experience. You can have your own branding, your own logos, and like when I'm buying something through Shopify, again, I don't even realize it until I get to those final like 3 steps: enter your your address, your payment information, or use Apple Pay, which is my favorite way to go anytime I'm shopping online. So definitely, like, I order Adam's shoes anytime Adam's comes out with a new design or something that I want. It's Shopify at checkout. They have a lot of cool integrations and an app where you can track like your delivery details. It's just an all-in-one experience. It's really nice.
Absolutely. From a customer point of view, you have that streamlined checkout process, accepts all the major platforms in terms of like how you want to pay: Google Pay, Apple Pay, all built in. Then when you complete the purchase, it kicks you over to that shop app where you can track everything from fulfillment to shipping to delivery. It's wonderful. There's no reason that Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. We got Allbirds, Rothy's, Brooklinen, so many more using Shopify. Over 175 countries have shops using Shopify. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/HomeKit, all lowercase. So go to shopify.com/HomeKit now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/HomeKit. That's where we play like a cha-ching sound, like a cash register. Cha-ching. It's right there.
Right. We need
Shopify.
a little Foley board here. Just start playing random sound effects throughout the whole show.
Perfect. Well, we're going to round out this episode with some listener questions. We got a few of them in here. So starting up, this is a follow-up to a prior episode. I think it was you and I, Wes. We were talking about the sensors in a fridge or a freezer situation.
Right. Trying
right?
to trying to keep track of when a freezer door opens, either through the temperature or through the door opening itself, in order to go and shut it real quick to keep control of that system.
Yeah, so Rodney wrote into me and said they were listening to the latest HomeKit Insider, and they actually use a SwitchBot outdoor temperature humidity sensor, temperature and humidity sensor. So it's not HomeKit, but it gives my temperature alarms, and I get to see the temperature and humidity graphs in the SwitchBot app. They've had problems with their compressor working in their fridge, so this allows them to monitor it over time and see how it does. I like the SwitchBot stuff. Looky here, like I got it. One of the SwitchBots.
Nope.
Hanging out here on my desk, and not
Very
anything
nice.
fancy, but I do really like the SwitchBot gear, so those are very handy. So that's good to know. I don't know if that one specifically would work with Matter, which would bring it into the Home app, but that's at least a little bit of advice. Somebody's tried one and has had no issues with the signal and everything, so that's worth knowing. Let's get your opinion here on this one. Go ahead.
I was going to say, that's the good thing about smart home stuff. There's a million solutions to every one problem. I mean, just it really depends on how you want to tackle it.
Of course. So let's get your opinion here. So Ben, he wants, first off, big fan of the podcast, which is great. Thank you, Ben. But he wants to put some lights inside of his kitchen cabinets. So he's reorganizing, redoing cabinets, wants to add some lights inside. What do you think, Wes? I've got some ideas. I want to hear what you think.
Okay, so it really depends on how much money you're wanting to spend, because you can go crazy. I mean, we already know Andrew with his barn door pantry with like studio lighting was just this really immaculate project, and it's very beautiful. It would also probably cost him $80,000. But joking aside, you could also go really cheap here. Funny enough, not everything has to be HomeKit. I know that's blasphemy on the HomeKit Insider podcast, but you can actually get just these funny little systems. You can buy simple little lights that activate when you open the door. Go fully analog on this. It just really depends on, again, just expense. How bright do you need the lights to be? Do you need them to be in the Home app, or would you prefer that they just kind of work on their own? Kind of need a little more information that way to guide you. But as far as HomeKit goes, I mean, I could imagine a system, and Andrew will fix me here. I could imagine a system where you set up a door sensor for every cabinet, which would get very expensive very quickly, and then have a single light strip drill a hole through a run of cabinets, and then run a light strip all the way along the baseboard of it, and then have that single light strip turn on no matter which cabinet door you open. And that could be like a simple solution, but again, it depends on how involved you want to get here.
Yeah, I think you basically, hit it on the head. This, unfortunately, is a super analog solution that they've had non-smart options for the longest time. Mm-hmm. Like you see the infomercials and shop the stuff on Temu of like literally just ones that are triggered by a little pressure sensor on the door, and you open it and your cabinet lights turn on, or they detect motion or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's like, those are probably realistically the easiest and simplest, because they are such an analog solution. You're not worrying about your network or triggering them, and it's going to be much, much more affordable. That said, if you want to do something fun and crazy, we got options. Right. So, like Wes said, you could go through and use contact sensors on each door, and then use those to trigger like a light strip that you did on the inside. If you want to get really fancy with your light strips, you could do what I did on my custom pantry that I built. You can actually extend Hue lights using just Ethernet. Mm-hmm. So there's ways to like make a jumper, basically. So if I were you and I wanted to be crazy, I would run like a Hue cable underneath a Hue light strip or whatever, like underneath the shelf, jump it up to the next one, and tuck it inside the edge so you don't see it, then go across the next shelf, go up to the next one, and that's literally what I did down all the shelves. So I made like a false lip on the front, so it looked like the shelves were a lot thicker than they were. So I didn't need to get like 1.5-inch thick walnut just to make the shelves. I could go with like 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch with a larger front on there. And that larger lip also allowed me to hide my light strip, so they could provide that down-facing light, and it would look really pretty.
I'm telling you,
but yeah.
Dollar General, they have really nice motion sensor lights that you just stick inside the cabinet. It's inelegant way to get light in there. It really depends on what you're trying to do. I mean, are you trying to make it
Yeah.
beautiful? Are you trying to showcase those lights? You just need to be able to see. Is your cabinets just particularly dark for some reason, especially when you're trying to reach the back areas where your very old Ted Lasso mug that you've never used, that you purchased 3 years ago, just happens to sit collecting dust? Maybe you need light to see that and reclaim it. It just, again, depends on the goal, depends on what the cabinets are made of. Do you want to drill holes through the cabinets? Do you want to run a bunch of complicated lights? Or do you really just want a simple soft light solution? And really, anywhere on the spectrum, it's like I said earlier, a million solutions to a single problem. You can get as complicated as you want here, but I would recommend simple is best. Avoid going too crazy because, like Andrew said, internet signals can be complicated, especially through something as solid as a wooden cabinet door. And if you stick a bunch of lights back there that all need to communicate with HomeKit or your Wi-Fi network, it can disappear. And then suddenly your automation isn't working. It's going to feel broken to your family members. Maybe you'll know what's going on and you can go fix it, but then that's just another thing to have to troubleshoot. And is all of that truly worth it to have some light shining on your plates when you open the cabinet? So just keep all of that in mind as you do these projects, because a simple idea can get very complicated very fast.
So I would say one thing, because I feel like we don't always know all the information here, Wes, which could be, what if they're like the clear door kitchen cabinets and he wants to be able to have some lights on the inside that just make them look pretty? Because my dad has a bar at his place, so he has a lot of glassware inside, and he did like hue lights on the inside that he could adjust the colors on, and it looked really pretty. So if like that's what you're going for, something clear on the front, anything like that, then especially in that case, you would want to go the HomeKit route, because you could have control over colors, lighting effects. If you go with something like, Nanoleaf or Govee, where you have like independently addressable zones, so the RGBIC stuff, that could get very cool in terms of, lighting different shelves differently with a single light strip. There's a lot of fun stuff that you can do there. So hopefully there's enough information in there, Ben, to do something. And please, if you do something cool, share it with us. Send us a photo or something, and we're always happy to get on the podcast.
Learn new things. There's always new fun ways to get innovative with this stuff. So yeah, if you find something fun to do, let us know.
Well, what about this one, Wes? Do you know of any smart locks for wooden gates? Julian is asking us. He wants to know smart locks for like wooden gates.
Well, it depends on how you're locking that gate. There are, like, are we talking like a deadbolt solution, or are we talking about like a padlock? Because you kind of latch a key and then close a padlock on most outside wooden gates that I've seen. And there are solutions like none of them Apple Home related, but you can get those cool little NFC locks that'll unlock when you tap your phone to it and stuff like that. But what do you think, Andrew? You got any ideas?
Well, on the padlock side, I just actually threw mine away because it had never really worked. But if you remember the brand Koogeek, Koogeek, one of the very, very early HomeKit brands, I think maybe still around, but I haven't heard their name in a long time. But they actually had the first padlock that worked with HomeKit. And it did have a fingerprint sensor on the front, and then there was a HomeKit component, so not key. But yeah, so it would definitely depend on your wooden gate. So I am contemplating a similar thing. So like right now we have our wooden gate to get into our deck, and it has like a traditional gate latch where you got like a little hook thing, and you got like your little bar, and your gate opens and it closes and goes in here, and then it like locks. And then you can put a little deadbolt, and clearly demonstrating all this. It's very easy to follow if you're watching the video. That's sarcastic.
Oh,
this is very weird. But there's a little spot underneath where you could put a deadbolt that would lock your gate. So for me, as like Harrison is doing things, goes outside into the gate, we got to make sure all these things are closed off. I don't want him walking out of the gate, and there's like various baby ones like that have like a tall opening thing on the top that you could do. But something as simple as like a lock would be really handy just to keep it locked because we don't use it very often, and then could just easily one tap to open and get out of the gate. So I wish there was another deadbolt that I could use on that, but more likely as I wish there was just like a smart gate latch. you know?
Yes.
And there are smart ones out there, but I don't know any that work with HomeKit. I don't know any way of making this work unless you installed a deadbolt onto your
But
gate.
even then, we're talking about bringing indoor electronics outdoors, which is another complicated process because you don't
Well,
know how water resistant
technically your
these things are going to
deadbolt
be.
is like half outdoors.
Yeah, but it's on
So,
a porch or at the very least has some sort of awning. We're talking about in the elements, in the weather. I mean,
I think
I
any
can't speak
deadbolt
for
will be able to withstand elements.
fair enough, but
I mean, it
I
should
can't
be
speak for
inside your
level
gate.
lock.
All the yeah.
Well, yeah, but like I can't speak for something like level lock, but like just thinking about it, there are electronic components in there, and yes, while it can survive the humidity and temperatures of outdoors because it is outside my front door, it being in constant rain or exposed to other elements, just you don't really know what you're getting into because that's not a use case they've planned for. So, excuse me. Never mind, couldn't sneeze. Anyway, yeah, it's just one of those systems that, sadly, it's a hole, especially in Apple HomeKit. If Apple addressed it more, like I discussed before, I bought some 3D printed waterproof enclosures for Aqara door sensors that are not meant to be outdoors, so I could put them on my metal fence posts so I could see when the gate opens and shuts. Solutions like that do exist for certain things, but this just feels like a very solid hole in HomeKit. And if you go outside of HomeKit, maybe even standard old school, we're talking 90s, 2000s home solutions with electrical door signals and wires that maybe you could hook up a smart relay to and get the status of through like Homebridge. Like there's a lot of ways that you can do this. How complex you want to get is up to you. But again, sometimes the analog is just the best solution. Just lock the gate with a simple padlock and key. Or if, like we said before, find one of those Bluetooth or NFC enabled locks that don't show up in HomeKit, but at least you got a smart gadget there to utilize if need be. It'd be great if the market could address it. It's just, even though this stuff's been around since what? When did we get HomeKit? 2015, 2014? We're getting a decade into a lot of this smart home stuff, and a lot of it's existed even longer than that beyond just protocols. So I think now we're starting to see more of the niche, more of the small stuff, like HomeKit controlled pool heaters, like stuff like this they're coming along. It's just we're not quite there yet. And I would love to see Apple push the envelope by introducing new categories, new features soon, so maybe we can see innovation there.
Yeah, I feel like we could see like a Matter-enabled one, possibly that communicates over Thread. Because if you look, there's a ton of smart padlocks just hanging around, but none of them that support HomeKit.
I would love the smart latch idea, like kind of like a deadbolt, where you're walking up to your fence gate. Maybe it's one of those privacy fences, and you want to go through your yard instead of through your home, and it's locked on the other side. There's no mechanism facing outward, but you just walk up and tap a NFC sticker or something on the outside of the gate, and then you just hear a little clink where the latch undoes itself because it's a smart magnetic lock thing, and then you just walk through the gate, shut it back, and there you go. It's locked again. That would be amazing. No one's made it, so maybe the demand will be there. People have fences. I don't know. I'm not sure why these things don't exist.
I know. You know who should make it? Yale. Mr. Yale, I'm going to talk to you directly. Please make a smart latch. You could do it. Yale also makes other random locking HomeKit accessories that no one else does, like a smart package bin, works with HomeKit. There is a actual safe that works with HomeKit, and there's cabinet locks that work with HomeKit. So, Mr. Yale, please make a wooden gate latch that works with HomeKit.
As we close out, I just want to get a little nostalgic. This is the kind of stuff you used to be able to kind of solve with Radio Shack. Like you would have like a idea, like a techie idea, and you just want to execute it somehow. Well, you just walk into Radio Shack and grab a bunch of capacitors and see what you could connect together. I mean, I know Lowe's and Home Depot and stuff like that in the United States have a lot of opportunity for custom made things. So if you want to, if you know someone who's handy in your life, maybe you could fashion a smart door lock, and all you need is a system to get that electrical signal, and look into smart switches, kind of like what SwitchBot does, that can send. All you need is an on-off switch in HomeKit, right? All it needs to show up as is a button, and then the rest can happen down the line. You just need to get an electrical signal to it. You can get really custom, really technical down there, but again, that takes a little bit more skill, a little bit more know-how. But there's probably a way, if you're really handy, maybe someone online has done this. We haven't done the research. We could go find someone who's done something like this, but you could probably build a custom solution here. It would just, that would be really involved and maybe beyond, a little beyond maybe what me and Andrew can put together anyway. I mean, you have a smart kitchen, a chicken coop, don't you? You got some chickens out there roaming around?
We do, yeah, and I got a smart chicken door, but it's not in HomeKit, unfortunately. I'd like to get an alert, every time that it was closed and stuff, so I know they were tucked in for the night, but unfortunately not. Well, last thing to touch on, we had one more question, which was somebody was asking about smart smoke detectors, and it stems from them using I think it's the Nest Secure, is that? Because it was like the Nest Protect. And I remember when the first Nest Protect came out, and I really loved the idea because you could wave at it to hush it. And to me, that was like brilliant because like so many times like you're cooking and then you have that going off, then like your dogs or your baby and everyone's like yelling like, ah. And like the last thing you need is like the yelling of that in the back while you're just trying to get a simple like, extra smoke from your chicken dissipated. And you could just hush the alarm and it would like pause it. Then they rolled back that feature when they realized this simple gesture is very similar to the that people also do when they're on fire. So they took that feature away. Yeah, I know. But now we're looking at what we're doing in the HomeKit space, and I am not as up to date as I should be because there used to be a couple options. There was like the first alert system.
First alert still is available on link.
Well, the one that's not available is the Safe and Sound, which I loved. It literally mounted in your ceiling. You had an AirPlay 2 speaker, well, just now called AirPlay speaker, as well as like smoke and everything like that. Very cool. I really like those, and I have 2 of them in my house. Recently, we covered this on the pod, which is from Owl Home. This is the Owl Home wired smart. They call it like a security system, but it has smoke, carbon monoxide, motion, sound, temperature, and humidity sensors. So this is what I currently have.
I've almost ordered one of those like 12 times, but we don't have wired in our home.
They have a wireless version.
They currently do not, and the
Is
wire
it not available?
So
okay.
I went to their website like 2 days ago, so I don't know, maybe it's changed, but all that's available is Owl Home. It's a wired unit, and it has a battery backup that can be recharged over USB-C that lasts for a week. So I'd have to recharge my smoke detector once a week. So
yeah,
as far as I can tell, there isn't a battery version. I don't know where it went, or maybe I'm in the wrong store. I don't know, but I would be very interested in a battery version of that.
I swore they were at least coming out with a whole dedicated battery-powered version. Maybe this is just what they have available so far, but yeah, we'll have to see.
Are you going to replace your whole home with Owl Home sensors, multiple smoke detectors?
Well, the thing here too that makes this more complicated is it's almost like Apple recognized the lack of smart detectors, and that's why they introduced what we also talked about last episode, is the ability for HomePods to automatically detect smoke sensors, smoke alarms, carbon monoxide
just sound
alarms,
detection,
and give you an alert through the Home app. So it works basically, effectively, you're looking at almost the same thing, right? Like, so you're not at home, your smoke alarm goes off. If it's a smart smoke alarm, you're going to get an alert. If you don't have one, you just have a dumb one, your HomePod hears it, your HomePod sends you an alert, and then allows you to listen in using the microphones on the device. So you could, like, hear the fire in your home, but it kind of gets around that.
Well, Owl Home has a few other things, like I think they have microphones in them so you can speak through them if you want to. interesting stuff here. I don't think you can fully replace like a HomeKit solution with a dumb one, but going the sound recognition route with HomePods definitely is an option. It's a much cheaper option. I would recommend looking into before spending a bunch of money. But I like the idea of having these, if only because I want them connected to a network, so I know when are they going are they working correctly. Do they need anything changed? Is the internal battery charged? Like, I want access to all of this data because I feel like it's very important, and we don't really treat these kinds of things seriously enough in our lives. Currently, right now, I'm pretty sure half of mine are dead in my house. I need to go change all the batteries. But the cool thing about our home is it's all in one, right? It's carbon monoxide and CO2 and various other sensors for things that can happen in your home. Whereas most smoke detectors are just smoke. We just had a story on Apple Insider about a woman basically realizing she was going unconscious in her bed, and she was getting dizzy, and she couldn't get up. And she didn't realize, but these were all the symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning. And the only thing she could do was hold down the button on her Apple Watch and contact emergency SOS and dial 911 basically, and that saved her life. And but she was like, I don't know, in like an apartment or something. But yeah, like carbon monoxide is a huge deal, and like I feel like we should have access to more of this stuff in our home, and adding a little technology to something like this I feel like is important enough. I mean, we're already spending thousands of dollars so we can have a nice camera system that follows around the room. Maybe we should invest at least a couple $100 in having some smart detectors, I think.
Yeah, I kind of wish some of these had like natural gas detectors in them as well, because I remember last year at CES, Faith was very concerned that she smelled natural gas in the home. Mm-hmm. And like we have that for heating. Basically, we don't have a gas stove or anything, but it's what powers like our heating system. And it's like you like, does it smell kind of like, you know, the methane, the eggs? Does it not? And then it kind of gets in your head. And especially back then when we had Harrison as a newborn, she was very, very worried about it. So she called me like 2 a.m. She's like, I think it smells like gas. I'm not sure, but I don't know what to do. And you know, what do you do when it's like, you know, 2 a.m. or something and you're not sure about it? You know, and you're concerned. So I feel like that should be something too in the parts of the country that do use, you know, natural gas more. Should be something built into these things too. So luckily she did just buy a sensor off of Amazon that got there in like the next day.
I feel like when it comes to like these kinds of technologies, companies should be doing more. There's so little available. Make a component that has everything. Just jam it full of sensors. Give us air quality. Give us CO2 alarms, CO alarms. Every little sensor that you can put in there, temperature, all of that stuff, just put it in one of these things, because they should be in almost every room of your house anyway. Integrate it with HomeKit. I don't know. There's just another one of those, I feel like, holes that should be filled by some sort of smart company out there that's willing to make a bunch of money, because I feel like there's demand for it. I think if, especially in the HomeKit space, people knew that there was an advanced option that did all the things, you could go that route. Like Aqara makes a lot of cool stuff. I believe, don't they have some sort of smoke detector, but only in certain countries? There's a weird.
There's a lot of random restrictions around it. So there are more, like even Eve, I believe, makes one that's available like in the EU. Bosch makes one in the US too. So Bosch is a company that has, I think, 2 different units available. So there's a few different options out there, but it seems like there should be more for sure.
There'll be a link for Owl Home in the show notes. I recommend everyone look at that one, if only because it seems to be the most unique. It's affordable, and to an extent, I think OnLink has like an even cheaper model. All of the smart ones that I've seen do carbon monoxide and smoke. So at least that's nice. That's there. I don't know. I just wish there were more variety, more options. Give us the super souped out crazy option. Like no one's doing that version of here's every sensor we could fit in a hole in the wall, basically. But
probably just because it's too expensive to put that in, like for someone to buy 5 of them. Like,
Yeah, it does get high, but then you also have to remember we're also the same people who talk about buying home pods for every room, right? So I don't know. And this is like an actual safety feature. Maybe home pods should be smoke alarms. Did we think about that?
there we go. Perfect.
Before we close out, Andrew, I did want to address one thing. So everyone, I know the elephant in the room. We're slowly getting used to this new version of HomeKit Insider, right? Nothing's changed other than the host. I know I'm not a Steven, but me and Andrew are, we got to get used to each other just like anyone. We never really were on podcasts together before. I've seen a few, nothing bad, just a few people saying, hey, I miss the old pace of the old show, and, Wesley needs to stop talking so much. So I just want to address that we're getting our own rhythm together, right? I'm not gonna pretend to be Steven, and I'm not gonna try to come out here and start yelling HomeKiteers every episode or anything. But we're gonna find our own pace, and don't worry, like, we're still gonna be a great authority on HomeKit. We're still gonna bring you the news every week, and please reach out on social media, send us emails, leave reviews in the Apple Podcasts app. All of that's always appreciated, and it helps. So any feedback is always appreciated, and I thank you guys for listening. Just want to throw that out there.
Absolutely. Thank you, as always, for joining the show. We are going to have a crazy season. I'm not going to be able to shut up about Vision Pro. I'm just saying we don't have to talk about it necessarily on the Smart Home Podcast.
Yeah, we're going to be on the video. Just have it on.
You're going to just... That's all it's going to be. It's going to...
Right.
Oh, can't wait. I know I keep hearing more and more rumors. I know you and I talked about it, that we said it was going to be coming up in mid-January, and everyone said, no, it's going to be February, March. And now they've been inching that timeline sooner, and I just saw one today that's like, oh, they're literally shipping the headsets on the 11th. So it could be before.
Yeah, January 26th seems to be the pre-order day. I mean, that's the current rumor anyway, so we'll see. It's all very in the air, but CES being next week, everyone's kind of assuming that Apple's going to just drop a announcement video for pre-orders for Vision Pro just to completely disrupt CES, which is a very Apple thing to do. They did the same thing with iPad, so it'll be fun. See if Apple tries to repeat some of their past annoyances with the rest of the tech community.
Yep. So cool. Everybody, do your usual things because we love to hear from you. So go ahead. You got all of our links in the show notes for everything we talked about in this episode, as well as to get a hold of Wes and I. You can find me on any of the socials that I'm on. You can find Wes on the socials he's on, including the Mastodons, and I'm over there on Threads, still existing in that bare bones of an ecosystem. Please go ahead and give us 10, 20, 30, 100 stars over on your podcast platform
Andrew's
of choice.
Still ignoring me. He won't join Mastodon.
I can barely keep up with Threads.
That's fair.
So until Twitter is fully gone, I think I'm just going to... I can't focus my thoughts into 5 buckets. I can't do it. Yeah. I'm not...
Slowly but surely.
Yeah. Watch video of this episode and me demonstrate how door locks work over on YouTube, youtube.com/HomeKit Insider.
That's going to get us a flag.
Otherwise, stay tuned. Next week's episode, massive CES roundup. Stupid amount of stuff to talk about. Join us. We'll see you guys then.
See you next.